And we're streaming in 5, 4, 3, 2. It's coming. It's coming, MB.
This is my first podcast. I'm a little nervous. Usually I talk all the time.
Oh, Jesus. So
no worries. I ain't gonna freeze. Come on now. Yep.
So you ready? Because we live now. Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Tawana B from Not Your Normal Conversation here with Michael Branch, Chief Probation Officer from Brockton District Court. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing all right, T. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a long time in the working, so I appreciate you.
I appreciate you coming on. You like the president. It is so hard to get you, to connect with you, but what I do, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on the show. I really do. I think people need to hear from you. So we're going to get right into it because I know you got a lot to say.
Of course.
So everybody, this is Michael Branch. For all of you guys who don't know who he is, you might know him because he coaches the semi-pro football team, the Bandits, and Odin Lord used to play on that team. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But right now, we're going to talk to Mr. Branch about being the Chief Probation Officer over at Brockton District Court, because that's the big thing on the streets. You know what I mean? And as some of you may know, Michael is a Boston native. He grew up in the hood. So we're going to get into it and find out how he went from the hood to the courtroom. And it's about to go down, y'all. So, Michael, let's just get right into it. Mm-hmm. So I did some research on you. And, you know, when I first started the show, I said I wanted to get somebody who worked for DCF because, as you know, my story, I actually was brought up in the system. I was taken away from my mom at a young age. And so I believe that somehow the system failed me as a child, not necessarily as an adult, but as a child. And then I did some research on you and figured out that you used to work for DCF. So you went from working for DCF to working in the court system. What was your reason for leaving DCF? And what is the difference between the two systems?
Well, first and foremost, it was a great opportunity. And I can tell you this, DCF social workers are probably undervalued, underappreciated, overworked, and underpaid. It was a very, very tough job. Because you see a lot of different lights. Right. You know, there's removal. At that time, there was child in need of services, and there was just many situations. So for me, I knew I wanted to either at that time be a police officer or get into probation. So it was more a situation where I always wanted to help people. Okay. And I think, you know, coming from the inner city, you tend to understand more situations economically, different situations, different scenarios. Right. But I can tell you it was a very, very tough job because, you know, when I first was employed with them, you know, I was in CMP, which is care and protection. Right. And at certain times you have to remove children. And that was probably one of the toughest things I had to do in my life. Right. Because, you know, there was certain time situations where mothers weren't following up on doctor's appointments. I can remember one case where the child had severe asthma. Wow. And you know, when you have severe asthma, nebulized and all that, you have to have a series of appointments. Always got to follow up. Right. I was directed if she keeps missing appointments, that I have to remove the child. Wow. So I remember it was one of my first removals, and you know, you're very nervous in a situation. I'm taking someone's child. Right. You know, and it's a confusing thing, but ultimately I had a job to do. And when you start thinking for the better good of the child, right, then you know, you start thinking about the other parts. Right. But I can remember my first removal at the hospital. I had to talk her into meeting me there to direct her that if you don't bring her to this appointment, at which point we might have to consider removing the child. But she did not know that we were going to remove the child at the hospital because we knew that's the only way I know I could get her there by a form of, I don't want to say threat, but just putting that court action in front of her that this would be at risk of losing the child. Right. And I remember because, you know, you always can remember something that sticks with you.
Of course, of
Having
course.
the paperwork, they're telling that the child's gonna leave with me, and then watching her walk down the street in an empty stroller. You know,
Wow.
you know what? It's a very sad sight, but that motivates you to work harder for that child, and then try to reunify the family.
Right.
You know, so it was a tough job too, because a lot of times you start making strong relationship with the children.
Right. Exactly.
And you know, if I can remember the rules, I think we had to make contact once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, you know, some kids really looked forward to seeing you, and you became a part of their life.
Right.
And, you know, that part takes a toll on you mentally, because
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm gonna be very transparent. You find, you know, that you have favorite kids. I'm gonna be real, that you had in your caseload. So when Christmas time came and DCF awarded us, you know, gifts to bring, you know, those ones that needed more, we made sure they had that. But it was a very tough job. But what it did for me as an individual, it made my case management stronger.
Right.
It put me in adverse situations, so that, you know, you got to make decisions on a short bit of time, but also it allowed me to help people.
Now, let me ask you this question, because as I'm listening to you describe when you first started basically your career, you started out in a system where you were taking children, even though you may not have wanted to, away from their parents because of the situations that the child was in. Now you find yourself in the courtroom where you are sometimes taking away somebody's kid because they may not have followed the rules. Like these parents didn't follow the rules when these kids were children. Now you have adults who don't follow the rules, but they still have parents. So now their parents are in the courtroom watching you sometimes recommend to the judge that they go away, or that they're in violation of probation. And so now it's time for them to maybe do their time. Tell me what that's like for you, because I'm sure you like you said, you were raised in the hood. So I'm sure you've seen some people that you grew up with that you may have had to be in the courtroom with. So tell me what this experience is like for you.
Well, I can go back to being in the courtroom. As a chief right now, I'm really not in the courtroom as much. I'm a department head and I lead a department.
Right.
But I can venture back to my time as a line PO in Dorchester.
Right.
And I worked in the community I grew up in. Some say they would never want to do that. But one, I had to take the opportunity, because that's the opportunity I was awarded to get into Dorchester. Probation is a very hard field to get into. But I was kind of happy that I was in the community I worked, because my philosophy is I think it's easier for me to help rehabilitate people if I have an understanding of the situation, and I have an understanding where they come from and what they might have been exposed to. Right. Because I might have been in the same situation.
Right.
So I think for me as a line PO, and be very, very honest with you, my line PO job was probably harder than my job as a chief, because I got to work directly with people, and I got to impose my will on trying to change their behavior and change things that they do.
Right.
So while I was a line PO in Dorchester, working under Bernie Fitzgerald, who was a great chief, I came in with a lot of experiences. So when I was at DCF, I went from CMP, then I went over to the CHINS unit, because that it was very tough removing children. And I think DCF saw my strength. Was working with younger folks. So at that moment, I went into the CHINS, which is Child in Need of Services, you know, and work with a lot of that youth, where I developed programming, bringing them to National Street Jail for Scared Straight, and doing things like that, because my model and philosophy was, if even I can change one behavior, I'm doing something right.
That's right.
And I wanted these, you know, I'm more of the notion, I'd rather be somewhat tougher on them when they're younger, so they don't get into the adult system, because your juvenile record doesn't follow you.
Absolutely.
So to transition back over to when I became a PO, you know, my chief was good, and I think he saw what my strength was, and he pretty much had me working with a lot of the young gang offenders. And that's where I pretty much made a name for myself. And not because I was a hard one, anything like that,
Right.
I think I was compassionate, empathetic. And I mean, not to boast myself, I think even to this day, I run into guys that I supervise who have nothing but good things to say. And if there was anyone that I did recommend that they do sometimes, they understood why that was. But I never gave up on nobody, because you have to put effort, because if you don't show that you have compassion, you care that they can change their life around, then they're not going to care. And a lot of times in individuals' lives, a lot of times they didn't have anyone to care or give them any type of advice or show someone that. So believe it or not, I told folks a lot of times working, and I don't even like to use the word gang, but affiliated people will look at me and be like, I don't understand how you did it. But to me, it was easy because I understood the situation because I lived in similar neighborhoods. I know how it was to walk through other neighborhoods. So I could give advice. And a lot of other times when they were looking or their friends were calling saying, let's go do this, let's go do this, I would tell them, use me. He's doing a curfew check tonight. My PO's air. I told him, use me as they're out, if that's the case.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
And it would take small things to get young men or the young ladies to comply. Simple. Showing up to a kid's basketball game. Yeah, people know me as a PO, but I have no identifying attire on. So when you go there, and I be like, oh, I see you, so-and-so. They see you, and it's like, oh, and this ain't at 3:30, because, the courthouse closes at 4:30.
Right.
Now, yes, there were times we would work late, we do ride-along, things of that nature.
Right.
But if there were a lot of individuals that I know just made a small mistake, and I know that they can build on, you just show them that little bit of support.
Right.
And that you're not giving up on them. And that will go a long way to them getting their stuff back together.
Right.
And understanding. And I would also commend them for that, because I think, and this is just my feeling, for men, especially Black men, it's easy for us to get in trouble.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be very honest.
Absolutely.
I could have been on the other side, so I'm not going to look at anyone differently and make myself look better or try to look better.
Right.
Do I have friends that have done wrong? Yes. Do I have friends that have been incarcerated? Yes. If I sat up and told you no, I'd be lying to you. That wouldn't be real.
Absolutely.
But that's what made, the job outstanding, was the ability to have that effect on these young men's lives.
Right.
And to this day, I coach at O'Brien. And I was at O'Brien one day, and I brought my son up there with me. I'll give you a short story. And he was watching the practice. Now, you get so many people on base. I remember faces, but I ain't gonna remember the names. I ain't gonna lie to you, T. So dude's like, Branch. I'm like, okay, who's that? What's going on? We'll walk Branch. Long story short, his son was playing for me. So he brings his son over.
Right.
And these are things that is rewarding while you do the job. But first I'm like, all right, what's going on? All right. But you gotta, the guards up a little bit.
Right,
so
of course.
He brings his son over. And he says to my son, yo, your father's a good man.
Wow.
So my son's just looking. And he was like, he was all over me, but he saved my life.
Wow.
So my son's like, why? He was like, because I was up to no getting into it. He didn't give up on me. He stayed on me. He gave me curfews. He showed up at the house. He held me accountable.
Right.
But that made it easier to help me transition.
Now, I have to ask you this question, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to ask you this. How much of your caseload has to do with mental health? Because I know for a fact, being someone who was previously incarcerated, that a lot of the people on the inside have a lot of unresolved mental health issues. So how often are you standing before a judge and you know for a fact that your client has more mental health issues than they do issues with the law per se? And you step up and you say, hey, listen, maybe jail isn't the place for them. Have you ever been in a situation where you've looked at your client and they violated more than once, but you know for a fact that jail is not going to solve one thing for your client?
Yes, but I can truly say, back when I supervised cases, Tawana, mental health wasn't as big as it is now.
Right.
And I think we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot more of it, and we're preparing ourselves. We're embracing that challenge of dealing with the mental health and addressing those needs and issues where,
right.
honestly, back then, I think we wasn't addressing them. You know, it might have been, he has this problem, they got that problem. And that
right.
wasn't a strength. I mean, that's a strength I think we develop now. And there are
right.
a lot of things in place. We have
right.
Section 12 and we have Section 15s as well. So
right.
do I think we need to get better? Of course we do, because we're, especially in my community that I work, in my jurisdiction, we're seeing mental health cases go up.
Right.
And I can only speak for my courthouse. No, I'll speak for the trial court itself too. They're not into sending people to jail that have mental health issues. We're into trying to work and resolve those issues,
okay.
get the help, get the assessments that are needed. You know, I made my small little notes too. I'm sorry. You know, we have,
it's okay.
No, this on the mental health, because you know that I got to make sure I give it to you right information.
Right.
You know, we got a Section 15, which is more of a competence. So there'll be an evaluation to see if the individual is competent to stand trial.
Right.
If not, a report comes back saying the person is not competent.
Right.
And we also have what's called a Section 12, which is more like if they're a danger to themselves or they're suicidal. You know, anyone on the outside can come do that. A doctor will sit and evaluate them. So we are making vast improvements across the agency to help and deal with that situation. But I think it took a lot of it coming to the forefront.
And what do you mean when you say coming to the forefront? Explain that to me. How would you know if someone has a mental health issue?
And what I mean by that is we're not doctors to make diagnoses, and nor do I claim to be a doctor. Right. But I think hindsight 2020, our eyes are more open to the behaviors, okay, and that we're looking at these where I think prior, long time ago, no agency was really looking at the mental health issue the way they're looking at it now.
Right.
Okay, now a lot of those things are being taken into account.
Right.
In every aspect.
Of course.
In every aspect.
So you're saying in every aspect. So do you think that probation and parole are symptoms of mass incarceration? And before we talked a lot, I feel like I know you on a whole other level. And I have to say this, that you are one of the people that if I had to be on probation, that I would want to report to, not because I think I could get away with anything, but I think because you understand certain things that some probation officers may not absolutely understand. So I have to ask you this. Do you believe that parole and probation are symptoms of mass incarceration?
Actually, that's a great question. I can only speak for probation, but I'll just touch parole. Okay, parole, if you're on parole, the person's already incarcerated to jail. Okay. So when they get out on parole, all they are is they're serving that sentence at home. Okay, so if you're serving that sentence at home, you're giving that freedom, the difference between the two, if there's a form of a violation with parole, they don't have to go in front of a judge. Because they've already been sentenced. So that parole officer has that right to just bring them straight back.
Of course. And then they have a hearing. Absolutely.
Correct. For us, PC people tend to think we don't commit anybody. We only make a recommendation to commit. We don't wear a robe. Okay. Now, yes, we make a recommendation, and yes, judges may hear it, they may not. But what I can say to you, for probation, I'm going to kindly say no, and let me hit you with some numbers.
Okay. Give them to me, because I need straight facts, and I think that our listeners need facts too. Because I'm
gonna give it to you, T. Now, first and foremost, Massachusetts itself is one of the better states in the U.S. as far as incarceration, has one of the lowest incarceration rates in the entire country. That's first.
Says who?
Secondly, Plymouth, I deal with,
Says who? Your statistics from where? Because if you say you're going to give me straight facts, I trust you. But I'm saying you're giving me numbers. Are you giving me numbers from Plymouth, or are you giving me numbers from Massachusetts as a whole?
I'm gonna give you our Plymouth numbers. I'm gonna give you our Plymouth numbers so you can understand where I'm going with this right now. Okay. We see, first, I think you learn from mistakes. Okay.
Right.
We see that incarceration doesn't always figure it out. Example I'm going to give you: a drug addict.
Right.
If we keep sending a drug addict to jail, they're still going to be a drug addict.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
We're not addressing what their immediate need is.
There you go.
Okay. So the example I'm going to give you, the trial court now is putting things in place to accommodate that. We have a drug court.
Yes, I'm aware.
That people are accepting to, and they go through a series, and it's very stringent. Okay. Also, we have a veterans court. Okay.
Yes, I'm aware of that, and a mental health court.
But let me just give you a little bit of these Plymouth numbers so I can counter your mass incarceration right now.
Okay, go with it. Go with it. I'm with it.
Currently, to this date, I want to say, and this is off top of the head because I'm part of the reentry. Plymouth is around 600 inmates right now, Plymouth County. 600.
All right.
Max capacity is 1,000. 3 years ago, they were 1,300.
Oh. Okay.
To be down to 600, I think it tells you we're making progress and we're making steps.
Right.
And these are things I'm gonna give you things that I've seen since I'm part of the reentry out of Plymouth County, and I can only speak for the county I work in.
Are you making steps because of COVID, Michael Branch, or are you making steps because of?
No, I'm gonna disagree with you. Not COVID. No.
Okay.
Because they've done some things I've never seen ever.
Okay.
First and foremost, they had a job fair in the jail. One-stop shopping. In the gym, there were jobs that came in that were Corey friendly.
Okay.
Inmates came down. How they did it, obviously, as a visitor, I come in, we're already in there. So as they rotate their different times, they came into the gym doors closed, and they met with those certain job agencies.
Okay.
Took the information, filled out the application, and some of them had like interviews on the spot.
Wow.
Plymouth House to be verified. The Plymouth House Corrections, I can give you the reentry person's name who I deal with. So that blew my mind because you know what? That's outstanding. Because it's showing we're not just giving up when you're in jail.
Absolutely.
Recidivism, the highest rates of recidivism that time when you first come out. That's that big fear factor. Those first few months, T.
Absolutely. You know, I know it. Yes.
What they got in place there, and I was just like, this is awesome. To the point where Plymouth County now has put job fairs. The sheriff himself have put job fairs in the Brockton community.
Yes.
As well, through their reentry. Now the other part they have, and this was another good so I was blessed with to go watch.
Right.
They give out certificates. So for instance, they teach men how to sand floors and things of that nature so they can obtain employment. Okay. And one of the guys I know, I'm gonna give an example, he ended up getting a job, but because of his record, they gave him to him at night when they knew that there were no kids or nothing in the school. But guess what? He got a job because he was certified through OSHA. If I'm not mistaken, it's OSHA through the jail. And they run a program at Plymouth where it teaches like the basic custodial work.
Yes, they do.
So guess what? As these guys are in there, they're learning that trade.
Okay.
They're learning that trade. And I think that is so positive that we're just not putting people in jail and throwing away the key. We're going to develop skills while they're there.
Right. So let me ask you this question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm listening to you talking and I heard you say something that really caught my attention because I just did an interview yesterday afternoon with a woman named Tiffany Kirk who has a program called Financial Literacy, and she is in Atlanta. And we'd like to bring this program to Massachusetts. And I heard you say reentry, and I heard you say that you're a part of that process. And she's looking for somewhere in Massachusetts to start this thing now. Her program is called Project Restart. And what she does is that, because my friends, you know how it is, MB. We get out, we have a query attached to us that says we cannot get a job. So it makes it very difficult. It's a challenge being on probation and having your probation officer ask you every 30 days if you have a job.
Correct.
What this program does is it says, hey, listen, you don't have to work for nobody. I'm going to pay for you to open up a nonprofit organization or an LLC. I'm going to give you 10 weeks training, and you're going to work for yourself, and you're going to employ other people, and you're going to make a difference in your community. Because what people think you cannot do, we're going to help you do. So if I presented this to you, if I presented this to Plymouth County, would you be one of the people that would be on board with bringing this program to Massachusetts? Because let's be honest, a lot of Black and brown people who have been incarcerated barely have a GED, never mind know anything about financial literacy. So why wouldn't we bring somebody like that to Massachusetts to make a difference?
I mean, I think, like I said, what I can say I could do is I have the contact person.
All right.
From there, and I would even do one better. I speak at reentry. I love speaking that to the gentleman up there.
Okay.
What I'll say, I can't make no promises, but what I will say is I will personally call my connect at Plymouth and set them two up. And the person over there at Plymouth, she's a sweetheart, and she is very good at what she does, and she's very innovative with her ideas of help people. I mean, so that's easy for me to set that up.
Okay, so that's what I want to hear, because see, some people don't think, and this is what I love about you, and especially you being a chief probation officer, and I'm not ashamed to say it, a Black man in a position to help other people come up. So I can't speak enough into you as a person who's, listen, you know me, I've been on probation, I've always violated, this has been my first time being successful at this thing. So I've always been quite honest about that. Mm-hmm. I think that for me to see someone like you and not, I wouldn't say empower, but in a position to kind of hold people's hand and pull them up when they need it. We want to see more people like you. And sometimes it's hard for us to find it within the probation system, because let's be honest, Michael, we get all these probation officers who are bogged down with cases, and if you make one false move, you're going to jail.
It's not like that. It's not like that, T. I can be quite honest with you. It truly, I think that's a misconception of us.
Okay.
And I'm going to be quite honest with you.
Speak on it.
It's not our big thing is reduce reoffending, reduce recidivism. Okay. And that is our ultimate goal. That is one of our ultimate, it's in our mission statement on probation. And you know what? As I mature in the field, when you're young, you're not thinking like that. But as you think about it and you read about it, mm-hmm. you see, we can't give up on folks, because if you don't work on rehabilitating, people ain't gonna change. Example I'm gonna give you: if we have if your dog's coming home peeing on the floor every day, you got to work on changing the behavior so the dog don't pee on the floor every day.
Absolutely.
So when I first got on, that wasn't a mindset, but I wasn't let me send everyone to jail. No, but I'm gonna be very, very honest with you, very, very honest with the people out there. Just speaking for myself, if you out there, when you're shooting and you're causing public safety where kids can't play in the park, I'm telling you what I'm big on. If a kid can't play in that park comfortable, it's my job to make sure you can play in that park comfortably.
And I respect that. With you. And I respect that, and I think a lot of people respect that. And
there are certain cases, of course, you got to work with people, but honestly, there are certain cases sometimes I may have to recommend, a sentence. I mean, if you out here shooting people, how am I going to co-sign that? I can't.
Right.
There's victims out there. What do I say to that victim?
Right.
What victim sensitive strong? I got to support these victims.
Right.
Okay. Now, does that mean I'm going to lock them up, throw away the key? But no, they did something. They got to deal with that consequence.
Now, I have to ask you this, because I hear you speak on that, which leads me to this. Mm-hmm. When you were growing up in the hood, what was your greatest challenges of making it out of the hood and becoming a successful Black man? Because you've had, and I'm sure you've had some struggles, but you've had great success.
It starts from my mother. I can't take anything when my mom was a beast. When I was in high school, I lived on Draper Street, and I graduated high school in '89. And if you do the research on that, the homicide rate, people think it's bad now. Right. There was over 100 murders in Boston that then.
Wow.
And your gang violence was way higher. I credit my mother, and I credit playing football at a young age. I played football when I was 7. So once you play and you get in high school, after school, you're at practice.
Right.
And you're home doing your homework. So it just became a cycle. It became a cycle.
Right.
It became a cycle. And, you know, my mother staying on me, you know, and the passion to want to play and play in college, you know, that was a strong thing. Now, you know, did I make mistakes in life? Yes. No one's perfect. You know, was it tough? Oh, yes. Were there challenges? Oh, yes. Were there a lot of obstacles? Oh, yes. But that becomes your driving force.
Right.
You know, that's why, you know, when I supervise individuals and, you know, they would say, oh, you know, I'm doing this because my mother's a single parent. I'm like, no, we can't do that as an excuse, my brother. That's an excuse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? My father wasn't in my life my entire life, period. So that's not an excuse.
Right.
So it just makes a lot of this that I do in how, you know, coming from Boston and transition it, you know, it makes it when I was a line PO, it made my job kind of easier because I knew the trials and tribulations that a lot of these cats had to go through, because sometimes if you live in a certain neighborhood, and even if you don't want to get down, you're down because you live on that block.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Facts of life.
And that's funny that you say that, because with you saying that, now that you're successful, have you ever been racially profiled by the police or the justice system, even in this job that you're in right now? Have you ever been? Because I've read an article on you, and before I had a conversation with you, I was mad.
I knew you was going there, T. I knew you was going there.
I was not happy when I read that you walked into Dorchester District Court at 24 years old, going to do your thing in a suit, and someone walks up to you and says, "You here for a case? What you doing in here, man?" So basically what they were saying to you, no, they weren't basically saying to you, they were saying, as a black man, first of all, if you dressed up, you going before the judge because you in trouble, not because you were going to start your first day of work as a probation officer in that court. How did that make you feel? Because I was mad for you. I'm not even going to front.
To be honest with you, T, when I'm 24, I wasn't mad. I'm like, yo, I'm here to work. So, you know, you take stuff like, I don't take that stuff to get mad, because, you know, certain things at that age, you got used to dealing with it.
Right.
You know, but it was a blessing to come out and say, no, I'm here for work, baby. So it's, you know, wasn't going to get mad. You keep that chip on your shoulder and you use that to keep you going and motivate you to get where you want to be, because no one's ever going to expect you to get where you're going to be. You don't have that drive. And that was my drive when I was at Dorchester, to be one of the best POs in the building, get all my work in timely, and just prove that I belong. You know, prove that I belong.
And you did a great job at that. I have to say that. I have not known you for very long, but I feel like earring fell off. I feel like out of all of the people that I've met in the system, as far as probation officers concerned, with the exception of mine, because she's great, you have done an awesome job of trying to create a situation for people where they feel safe, whether they're the defendant or whether they're the victim. You want them to know that either way you're here to help. So that means, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I might have to give you time, but when you come out, come see me. Maybe there's something I could do for you.
Oh, I mean, that holds true to this day. And I'll give you an example of a reentry meeting I was at. I was at a reentry meeting, and there was a brother who was about to get out, because right after that, I always tell him, even if it's not a case in Brockton, there's a case that I can call one of my brother and sister, in other words, colleagues, to advocate for you. I'm going to do so. So it was an individual at that moment. He wasn't coming out to Brockton. I want to say he was coming out to Superior Court. And, you know, I coach football too, so we keep it a buck, good sized guy. I was like, yeah, what are you doing when you get out? Because a lot of, in my mindset was keep him busy. Okay. And he was like, I play ball. What do you play for? Told me he played for the Brockton semi-pro team. I said, well, I ain't supposed to help you out because I'm a bandit, but I said, in nature, I'm a coach. So at which point he's like, I don't have any cleats. I was like, you ain't got no cleats. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I said, I want to say I had a young lady at the jail, because what a lot of times what I do when guys are going to get out, a couple weeks before they'll get out, I'll ask, can they call me? So is anything I can do, or I will want to make sure I'm in the office when they say they're going to come through, because, if you tell someone you're going to be there and you're not, you already lost them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Your word's no good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I said, hey, pop in, give me a call. I said, give me a call when you're about to get out so I can work on your cleats and tell me your size. So he calls me. I was like, all right, I said, I'm getting out. I'm getting out on this day. So I marked it on my little calendar. I said, I'm gonna make myself a sticky because, at reentry, you can't bring anything in.
Right.
You can't have no phone. I can't have nothing. So at that moment, I got a little sticky from someone inside, one of the sheriffs. I said, can you write down this information? So they said they would give him my number. Long story short, I'm in the office one day and I get a call from parole. Right, then Mr. Branch's parole officer so-and-so.
Wow.
Okay. And he's like, can't remember the young guy's name, but I remember saying, he goes, you said the so-and-so you're gonna get some police. I was like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I said, no problem. He was like,
wow.
Well, he's getting out and he's gonna be in my office next week. Can we come by? I was like, please do.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Came by and I gave it, kid a pair of cleats. And just to look on his face, because something so small as a pair of cleats, one, I said I was going to do it, and I did it.
Right.
Okay, I had him when he walked out, but he wanted to go, and I spoke to the parole officer, and I told him, I said, this is good pro-social behavior. Okay?
Yeah.
I go, it's going to wear his ass out. Excuse my language, it's going to wear him out. I apologize.
It's okay.
It's going to wear him out. I said, he's going to be around a group of guys, and I said, you're going to know where he's at. You can pop at his practice, whatever. So we talked about it. And I explained, sometimes at the furthest they may have to go is Rhode Island or whatever, explain some of the demographics of where they're going to be going. And, just to see the enjoyment on his face. I don't want to say kid because he was a young man.
Right.
And I didn't know him from a hole in the wall. But that's what I tell him. It can be for anything. If it's me making a call for a job, that's just, sometimes the small things are the big things to people.
Especially coming from somebody like you in your position, because as you know, a lot of people in the system, we have trust issues. We don't, especially with the law. We're not going to trust anything that you say because you're on the other side. But for you to be on this side and for somebody to say that they trust you wholeheartedly, because honestly, I just met you and I trust you and I don't trust a lot of people. I think that you are doing an awesome job in the community in so many ways. Just how I watched you in the court. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been to visit him at Brockton District Court, and I don't even like courthouses. I've been there to visit him twice. And on both of those occasions, I was met with a lot of respect. And he didn't mind taking the time out to talk to me. And sometimes people need those things, especially people who are on probation or who have problems with the law and maybe don't know how to speak to people with the authority properly. Those things can be a problem. But people like you who are approachable, you make it easier for people who have been on the inside or who are trying to transition to get somewhere in life. So I appreciate you for that. And I have to ask you this question because you coach for the Bandits. You coached at the time when Odin Lloyd played for the Bandits. How was that experience for you? Were you close to him?
Yes. At first, we'll start. His mother is a sweetheart. Miss Ursula is she's just such a wonderful lady. I had the pleasure of coaching Odin in high school. And, at that time, I was the youngest coach out of the rest of our staff.
Right.
And when you get a new coaching staff that takes over, you kind of met with resistance. And we were no tolerance. We were coming in with a program and we were trying to develop these young men and get them in college. And they kind of had their own agenda. They used to do things. So it was a little clash.
Right.
Odin was a little stubborn.
Right.
Okay. So, and a lot of times when I talk back, a lot of times talk back to a coach, it's going to get you a little bit extra running.
Right.
So me being a younger one, I try to, a couple of times he gets sent, I try to talk to him like, listen, we ain't going nowhere. So either you're going to get down or just get off this. So we built a real good relationship. And when he struggled in school, myself and another coach went by his house. And I think his eyes opened when we took the extra time to go by his house to talk to his mother about the struggles he was having in school. So from that time, we built the rapport. He was supposed to go play in college. Some other things happened financially. So I seen him, very talented player. and I got him to come play for me. And, you know, he played. It was a great, great time. And then he started hanging with someone that didn't do something right.
Right. So let me ask you this question, Michael Branch. You know, I thought I was never going to get you on this show. You're like the president. Trying to get a hold of you is like trying to get a hold of the president.
I ain't never gonna let you down, too. I got you.
And I appreciate you. I appreciate you wholeheartedly. I also read an article on you. You got the Purple Tie Award. Mm-hmm. So that has something to do with domestic violence. Is that correct?
Correct.
So explain to us what that award was and what it meant to you to receive it, because you was cheesing in that picture that I saw of you. You was, oh my goodness. That picture is what I use for your bio to post on my my webpage, and you had the biggest smile. And I'm sure that your family and everybody that knows you must have been very proud of you for that moment, because I was proud of you. So tell me about the Purple Tie Award and what it meant.
First of all, it was an honor and a blessing. I was totally surprised. I was taken back. I was nominated by a young lady in the building. I want to say it was Christina, nominated. I did work in a domestic violence case where there was a young Cape Verdean brother who during one time at the Fatherhood Program, we run a Fatherhood Program too.
Okay.
And I would come in a couple of times to share my stories. You know, I'm coming out, dressed down, my sweats, my hat on. I'm a vibe with them. And I don't think I identified myself. I just started talking at the end. I said who I was. And just, I brought myself down. No, I just held a normal conversation and talked about some of my struggles.
Right.
And it, and I shared it with them, and they got open. So there was another young man there. So he had my ear after, and we started talking. And, I was just, trying to talk about different things he needed to do to avoid getting himself in tougher situations.
Michael, what's that fatherhood program that you're speaking about? Can you just say what it is?
Yes, we run a fatherhood program out of Brockton District Court. It can be open or it can be voluntary. You can volunteer to do so.
Okay. Could they get in touch with you to volunteer for this program? Because I believe that there's a couple of listeners that would like to volunteer for this program. One person in particular, Christian White's on the line, and he would like to. He has he started his first program from single cells to single dad, and I think he is interested in your program. So I'm gonna give him your information.
Of course.
Okay.
Not a problem. What was that question? And I know we got sidetracked. You just asked me to go, and I was about to finish.
I'm sorry, your Purple Heart Award. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, in working with that individual, as a chief, I don't supervise individuals, but, I'll tend to hold conversations. They want to talk to them, meet with them, and give them my opinion on things and how they can work themselves out of situations that they're in.
Right.
Well, long story short, his girlfriend, somehow it came up that they knew I had a former relationship, not like that, like he would listen to me.
Right.
So I got a call from the DA's office saying, hey, we're trying to serve him with restraining order.
Wow.
Would you help us out? And again, I'm never listening to wanting to set anyone up, but it's about victim safety. Right. It's about, like I said, it's about public safety. Right. So can I bring the young lady down? I said, yeah, bring her down to my office.
Okay.
So I read the affidavit and had a conversation with her, looked at his record, and she said something. She was like, he respects you. He might only listen to you.
Okay.
So I said, listen, so we're going to do. So with Safe Plan, we decided to make a little plan. I said, if he gets to your house, first of all the police do what you got to do. Okay. But here goes my personal cell phone number, because I know I can talk him down.
Absolutely.
So it gets to a point where after you obviously call the authorities, protect yourself, call me.
Right. So
the victim advocate sees me talking with her. I go, here goes my personal cell phone number. You call me at any time.
Right.
Okay. If you get to a situation where you're going to put the phone on speaker so I can speak to him. So I tried, reaching out to him. I said, listen, I did contact him. I'm like, listen, you're going to get served. So you avoid yourself getting in trouble at work.
That's right.
Don't fight this.
Right.
It's better for you to come get this served than them come to your job or somewhere and now there's a bunch of question marks.
Right.
Okay. All right. And I told him, I said, obviously there's two sides. I'm not picking no sides, but I am reading what is alleged and I hope that didn't occur. I'm not a judge. It's not my job to judge you. But right now, you have to be served. Okay. And I said, hear me. And I told him, you call me if you feel you are losing it or anything in that capacity. Right. Because I don't want you to get yourself in anything any deeper. And if you are any physical harm to this young lady, I said, I'm disappointed in you. If that is the case, then it has to stop now.
That's right.
It has to stop now. That's not the answer to what's going on. So it ended up working out. He ended up getting picked up. I can't remember what totally happened in the case, but how I directly dealt with the victim, and they didn't have cases on probation. There was nothing attached to probation in this matter.
Right.
There was nothing attached. They just knew somehow my name got caught up because he might have spoke to her about me or whatever. Right. That she knew my name. She told the victim witness advocate who brought her to my office. And, if I can help someone to keep someone safe, I'm going to do it. That's just, right. And that's when I was holding the conversation with the young lady, one of the things I know I'm strong as, body language, that body language. Mm-hmm. And I could sense the fear. When you start sensing fear like that, mm-hmm. And she's feeling that, well, what if the police don't get there in time type of fear? Right. Then, you know what? I have to do what I feel in my heart is the best thing to do. And so at that time, I thought it was a great decision it was my personal number. I was going to tell my wife, call it any time so that, or if he gets to you and you can't get to 911, right, put me on speaker and let me do what I do to talk to him. And they just took that. And then I guess they did some more and they nominated me for an award. And it was a blessing to receive it. It was an honor. A lot of my awards and things came back more of, gun reduction. I won gun reduction awards and, working with gang offenders. So for me, when you grow with your professional development, you want to grow in areas that you're not strong in. That's right. And I'm going to be very honest with you, domestic, that wasn't my thing. My thing was working with the gang offenders. I got U.S. Attorney gave me awards for gun reduction, Boston Police. Part of the whole Boston Miracle thing. We was a part of that with probation, reducing gun reduction. So for me, this was a great honor because I felt I took a next step in my professional development in my career as far as how to, deal with other aspects of cases. Now,
of course, that we're live. So people are saying, I would love to connect with him. There's some people who have done a lot of time and now they're out doing positive things in the community and would love to connect with you. I just want you guys to know this. He's not afraid of anybody because when I called him for the first time, I told him that I was a convicted felon. And before I could get it out, he said, I don't care where you came from. How can I help you? So just know that he may be on the side that looks like he's here to protect and serve, but he's actually here to serve the community. And we are a part of the community. And I think that it's safe to say, Mr. Branch, that you have been a great pillar in the community. And I have to say that I appreciate you. And it seems like a lot of people watching appreciate your services and all that you do in the community, not just as a chief probation officer, but as a Black man who stands up and does what's right every day. And we need to see that in our community, especially during these times. So I thank you. I thank you for coming on the show. And I will not tell a lie to you. Anyone who's asking for your information for something good, I'm going to pass it along.
Not a problem. So I ain't afraid of that.
So I want to pass it along. And I need you to just keep doing what you're doing because we need more people like you. We honestly do. And this is the reason why I wanted you on the show. Actually, Attorney Anthony Ellison recommended you to me. And I just did my own research on you. And of course, you know, my uncle's a cop, so you know him personally, but I didn't say that to you at first because I just wanted to see if I could get you here to talk to you, because nowadays people are so afraid to talk to the police or to because of all that's going on. Correct. They feel like they can't trust anybody. So I wanted to put somebody in front of them that I could say, hey, listen, here's somebody you might be able to talk to. Here's somebody that might be able to help you get a job. Here's somebody who may be able to help your kids get a winter coat. I don't know. But I thank you for your services. We appreciate you.
I thank you, honestly, Tawana. I mean, for having and hearing a voice, because a lot of misconceptions about probation that all we want to do is lock people up. That's not the case. I'm gonna be real honest. We don't. One thing I'm gonna tell you, I used to say this as a line PO. I don't like going to court like no one else likes going to court. So people used to think, oh, okay, well, when I walk into a courtroom, they're not calling like I'm sitting there like you sitting there. So it's just like, you know, people think, oh, we don't want to send everyone to jail. But if you are a public safety issue, or you're a threat to yourself, or you're a threat to someone else, then you force us to make decisions. And you know what? Sometimes if there's a drug situation where I may have to recommend detaining someone for 2 to 3 days to save their life.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna make that decision every day. Doesn't mean I'm incarcerating them. It means, guess what? If they're not gonna go into treatment, they're not gonna go into a detox, why am I have to force a detox? They're gonna be mad at that moment. The parents might be mad, but guess what? When I don't see an overdose death on fentanyl, then I know I did something right.
All right.
So, you know, there's decisions, honestly, too.
Absolutely.
When I was a line PO with young guys, if there was a situation one time where I know the word was out that this kid was going to get shot in the weekend.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's just call a fact a fact. People was out looking for him. Okay, he had a small violation, probation warrant over the weekend. He got picked up. He spent the week and came back, but guess what? He's alive.
Amen. And that's
important. Because you know the word is spread on the street sometimes if someone's a target.
Right.
Okay, then we make a comprehensive plan to you got to go move out of this immediate area.
That's right.
And that's when you meet with the family, make a comprehensive plan. Like, listen to me. Do you have aunts anywhere else, not out of state, but anywhere you can just get out of this just for now until it just dies down some?
Mike, I have to ask you a question just before we wrap this up. Someone asked, why was it important for you to give your cell phone to that young lady? Why was it important for you to give your cell phone number? What was the significance of that? Out of all things, like you gave me, I had your office number and had to keep calling it before I got a cell phone number. So this means something that you gave this young lady.
It was, to me, it was safety. You were safe, T. You know, you didn't present that there was any risk factors that you wasn't safe. When I have a young sister in front of me, trembling, and when she's talking, the lip is quivering, that's not fake. That's not rehearsed. That's real. And once I give her my number, it looked like it was a sense of, I'm not saying it's guaranteed safety net, because I can't guarantee anything, but she know I'm gonna, if I can't do it, I'm even picking up the phone myself, identifying who I'm saying I need a car there right now.
Right.
If that's gonna help her sleep better, make her feel safer, then I'm all in. All in. And again, she didn't know me from the hole in the wall, but it really is not about knowing me. It's about making sure she was safe. And I do remember that she did have a child because they had a kid in common. So that's easy. Right. That's an easy decision.
That's right. I appreciate you, Michael Branch, for this. Everybody, Michael Branch from Brockton District Court. He's not just a Chief Probation Officer. He is the football coach, Boston Bandits.
Boston Bandits, baby. And O'Brien. John D. O'Brien Tigers. Let's go.
This guy, he's going to represent this forever. You know what? Michael Branch, if you ever need me to speak to a group of girls, guys, when this pandemic is over.
T, we ain't done. I got to get some out of you now, too. Like you know. Okay?
Yes, and not like I'm slow.
Nah.
I want you to know that I appreciate you. My audience appreciates you. We appreciate you answering their questions. And I'm going to follow up with you in a couple of months and have you back on.
I'm hoping, I was going to say, don't forget about me.
I will never I will never forget about you.
Hopefully we're doing it live in the studio and keeping it real on the film. That's
right. And we can be face to face. I hope you're not one of those type of people that laughs and hits at the same time, because I can't do too much of that. Hey, everybody, Michael Branch.
Thank you. But listen, you keep doing what you do. All right. And don't look back. I will. And keep looking forward. You feel me?
I won't. And everybody, tune in next week. I have lots in store for you. Everybody have a good night. Stay safe. God bless you.
Thanks, T.
Thank you.
We on live still? You coming off yet?